Hello and welcome to the Play Healing Podcast with me, your host, Debbie John. And I am so excited to introduce to you the very dearest Jamie Sarah. And if you go and check out her website, one of the things that she says about herself is, I adhere to a set of foundational principles, one of which is forthrightness. As a result, she doesn't pretend that creating or scaling a brand is always easy and joyful. And I would totally resonate with that and echo that. And thank you for being one of those people in my life, Jamie, that has said things how they are. And really, you're great at listening. You've been one of those people that said, calls a spade a spade. And we need that kind of support when we are getting ourselves out there. There's no kind of time to waste, is there? But is there anything else you'd like to add? Help listeners to know what you do, what you love to do, and then we'll crack on.
Yeah, so I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to helping business owners to really leverage their magic in the most optimal ways, in a way that's a win-win for them and that's a win-win for their customers and for the world. And I just get really, really nerdy about helping business owners do that. And part of my magic with that is finding the exact right words for things. And yeah, it's just really fun. I love it. It's my idea of play. Like when I'm working, I feel like I'm playing, and I
Mm.
feel like I'm playing with ideas, I'm playing with concepts, I'm playing with people's magic, I'm playing with words, but obviously in a professional way. And so I think for me, your whole mission is has so much resonance, because I just think, play is valuable in every single setting, and there's so much value that play can bring to business and to creativity. So I love what you're doing. It's been amazing to see the journey that you've been on, and how much you've shifted, and how much your mindset and your energy have shifted, and what you've been creating in the world. And yeah, I'm just really excited to be here with you today. So thank you for having me.
Oh, the feeling's beautiful. I absolutely love what you've just said there. And I say it time and time again about we're playing with ideas, playing with words. And people can really box play into go and play outdoors if they're talking to a child, or I play football. And play is this expansive, beautiful way that we can just sort of integrate into our lives. And I just want to keep that as the front and center of our conversation today. But like going back, we love to hear about what kinds of play did you how did you play as a child? What do you remember? What those memories there?
I definitely loved, I think Sylvanians and Barbies were kind of major standouts. And I had a Playmobil house as well that was just
Gosh,
sacred.
I love that. I remember that too. And My Little Ponies, I had an
Yeah,
Applejack.
yeah.
Applejack was my favorite. Sylvanian families were brilliant. They did get a little bit grubby after a while, though, didn't they? They kind of picked up all them. But were you kind of less dolls and more Sylvanians and Playmobil then?
Yeah, I think I loved the precision and the smallness
Yeah.
of them, whereas kind of Barbies were just big and leggy, and just I just always felt they were a bit pretentious and a bit showy. Whereas I loved with Playmobil and Sylvanians that it was about, the story. It was about
Mm,
what scenarios can I create, what narratives and settings and
yeah.
contexts and adventures can I put them on, rather than just do they look fancy.
Yeah, and they're
Also
little
like
family
changing
units.
outfits and stuff. Like I
Oh
was never
yeah.
into the, changing outfits on bar. It's like, no, let's send these little people or these little animals on an adventure. Let's create experiences, as opposed to making them look fancy in different ways. I've never really been a very kind of materialistic person, or appearance driven person. It's always been
Same.
about creating moments.
I love that. It's so interesting, isn't it? How the way we played as a child
Yeah.
continues to echo
I know
into
so
our
much. Like
being.
I wear like this. I have very much a capsule wardrobe.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
makes perfect sense.
Yeah, less time to, more brain power to spend on the more important things.
Exactly.
Hey,
Exactly.
I love that. So you're also a mum, aren't you? And
Yeah,
how old's your son?
he's 5. So he
5.
just started school in September.
So you've been running your own business and parenting at the same time.
Yeah,
And there'll be lots of people thinking, how do you do that? And your business is profitable, okay,
yeah,
isn't it? It's really
yeah.
profitable. You're doing really well. You've worked so hard. You were profitable before he was came into the world.
I
But tell
actually
me
wasn't.
about, okay,
My
so
revenue
tell me
was
about
great.
that. Right. Yeah.
My revenue was great before he was born, but I wasn't
Right.
yet profitable. I became
Okay.
profitable after he was born.
Beautiful.
But that was conscious. I was investing all of the revenue in different things, in
Hmm.
my own development, in loads of training, in mentoring, in marketing, and all sorts of different things.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And how would you describe your business journey as far as um, since becoming self-employed? Because you were working, where were you working before you jumped
Yeah.
into
So I
being
was
self?
working for Thompson Reuters in
Yeah.
London, and then they also transferred me over to New York,
Wow. Yeah.
working in marketing. And I absolutely loved it. It was my dream job. And I would wake up every morning in New York being like, what? How did my dream life happen? And then, I was having an amazing time connecting with loads of different people. And then I just sort of started to realize I'm not sure this is my dream anymore. Sometimes when a dream comes true, you enjoy it for a bit and then you go, okay, now it's time for the next dream, right? Which doesn't mean it was never a dream or it wasn't amazing, but it's okay when your dream changes. And my dream just changed. And I thought, you know what, actually, I want to be, um, I want to start a family. I want to be my own boss. I want to have a bit more control over my daily schedule. I
Mm.
want to work with a wider range of people. I
Hmm.
want to not be in a cube.
Yeah.
It's on the 26th floor, I think 26th or 29th floor of an office block, and everyone's got just these little cubes
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
air conditioned box, and I was just like, no, I don't want that anymore.
And so you made that change about 5, 10 years ago.
So 2016, June 2016, I left.
Yeah.
I'd been training to be a coach for a year and a half, and I'd
Yeah.
had practice clients, but no paying clients because my
Hmm.
visa was very, very strict.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit of a rule follower, which is
Yeah.
no bad
No.
thing.
No.
Um, and yeah, within 6 months, I was fully booked. And within the first year, I had a 6-figure business.
Amazing.
And
Amazing.
then people started coming to me, asking me how I'd created what I'd created. And I started having people come to me asking me for mentoring, um, which was quite quite humbling. I was kind of like, "Are you kidding? I'm just getting started." And I would tell people, I'd be like, "I'm not actually profitable yet because I've been reinvesting everything I made." And they're like, "I don't care. I want you to teach me."
That's, I think that's a really important thing to think about, as you were setting the foundation for growth,
Mm,
and you knew that you didn't just want to sort of have this kind of size business. You
yeah,
wanted to scale, and you wanted to be in there for the long haul. It's like
yeah,
that infinity game that Simon Sinek says, isn't
definitely.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And before I forget, though, to
yeah,
squirrel for our first squirrel moment,
yeah,
you I remember you posting and talking about that you don't start the sort of working part of your day till sort of like 10 o'clock or something. You found that there's optimum times in your day. You
yeah.
kind of pause and you play and you connect with different things before you start that kind of, can you just explain practically what that looks like for you?
Yeah, so that's been true for the majority of the last 7.5 years.
Hmm.
There's a short period where I didn't do that, where I would wake up, get my son to nursery, and get straight to my desk, and I was
Mm,
absolutely miserable.
mm,
So
right.
I've tested it. I've tested doing it, right? Not getting to my desk until 10 o'clock. And I've tested getting there earlier. And it's the, not getting to my desk till 10 o'clock that is just my personal optimal formula. And before that, the things that really work for me are, walking in nature, listening to music, singing, dancing around the kitchen,
Yes, girl. I'm the
um,
same. Yeah.
reading if I want to do some reading. I also find that I like to put out a piece of content every day with a call to action, which is one of the things that I recommend to all business owners. 'Cause
Hmm.
put out content, but are you putting out content with a clear call to action? And I like to write that very soon after I wake up, because that's just when my brain is most unleashed.
Mm,
And I also just like to kind of zoom out and think about anything that's not working about me, anything that I still need to shed in myself, in my belief system, in my behaviors, any blind spots, um, anything that's maybe not working for a client that I need to discuss with them or present to them or coach them on. And often those realizations don't come during sessions. They come like when I'm in the shower and I go, oh my gosh, this client's missing this thing, or this would be an amazing fit for this client. And also, going to the gym or going for a swim, going in the sauna, going in the cold plunge pool.
mm,
I find filling up my cup first works best for me, especially as a mother,
mm,
because
mm,
by the time it gets to later on in the day, when I pick up my son from school, I want to be with him.
mhm,
So I don't want to
mhm,
eat into that time trying to fill up my cup while I'm also with him. Although obviously, some of the time that we spend together can be very energizing, but certainly not all of it. Um, and yeah, so that's
it's
what I
beautiful.
find really
There's,
works.
there's some really lovely practical ways that you've just outlined that people can just integrate into their day, and it might be different points in the day and everyone's different,
Yeah,
but interestingly I have the same. So I will sometimes wake up naturally at like 5:30 or 6. My head is much clearer then.
yeah,
I will do some strategy, or I will create some content, or
yeah,
or create something on Canva, a design or something, work on some design thing, and then I'll do school run, and then I will walk the dog, and or sometimes go for a swim and stuff. And then for the rest of my day, I feel really proud of myself that I've actually put myself first, and my
yeah,
brain it's actually woken up by then. And then
yeah,
I can settle into, okay, let's go for this.
yeah,
But often if I don't pause and connect with what's going on, or express the things that have come out from my sleeping pattern,
mm,
then you can just have all these layers of thoughts that just cloud the rest of and I'm definitely one for squirreling. I get very distracted easily, and find it hard to focus. And when you are working for yourself and you don't have anyone else in the office going, have you got that? Have you met that deadline? Have you, you know, it does take discipline, doesn't it? And
yeah,
knowing yourself. So pausing to know what works for you,
mm,
so powerful. And
yeah,
so what's coming out when you juggle like your own business and
yeah.
parenting? You're saying that you have you carved out time to be with him. How do you build connection with him? What do you do? How do you help him to feel safe and loved and seen?
Yeah, and just to echo what you said just there as well, I think if we start our day with discipline, and I think physical discipline is such a great type of discipline, because it's like, sitting within the body, right? And like whatever we start with the body,
Mm,
if we're aligned in our body, everything just flows outwards from that, right? And so I think, when we're starting with that discipline in the body, moving our body in the ways that we feel called to move our body,
mm,
etc.,
mm,
then that discipline, then with focus, with concentration, with making the right decisions, with balancing our needs and others' needs, and not putting, for example, others' needs before our own, I think that just flows a lot more naturally. Yeah.
mm,
So yeah, how do I connect with him? I mean, we love to go for walks together,
mhm,
and we'll hold hands a lot of the time, most of the way.
Mm. And do you
Um,
pause and notice things together? So if he
yeah,
pause, you seem to be someone who follows his lead, don't you? And
yeah,
if
I
he
do.
goes, "Oh, look, mummy, da 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 da," you you sort of you pause and you connect over that, don't you?
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. I think especially for him as a boy, I think letting him take the lead is really important practice for him and his masculinity. I think it's very easy for boys, especially boys of single mothers, to become quite emasculated. And I've always been really, really mindful that that doesn't happen to him. And so, yeah, I let him take the lead. I let him decide, where he wants to go for a walk, which path we want to take, which route on the path. If he wants to stop to look at something, if he notices something, I always make sure to exercise that curiosity and share in the wonderment together,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is something I think I learned from my both of my grandmothers and my grandpa.
That curiosity is all part of play, isn't it? And they naturally
Yeah,
do it, but you're
yeah,
giving him space too. And then
yeah,
often we can just rush from one thing to another, and then we are just on the back foot, and they pick up on that energy, don't they? Have you found that he picks up on where you're at? I think you were just mentioning
yeah.
his comment to you, didn't you, about how he's kind of picking up on what you need at the moment. What was he saying to you?
Yeah, well, I've had this bug, as you can probably hear, for the last week, and I spent 5 days in bed, which I don't think I've ever spent 5 days in bed before, even after I had just had my son and an emergency cesarean. I'm not sure I even spent 5 days in bed then, but yeah, I've had this bug,
Oh, bless you.
and I've been quite poorly. And he said to me yesterday, he said, "Mummy, when are you going to book a babysitter so you can rest more?" And he stroked my face, and I was just like, "Oh, my heart."
That's just they really do pick up. That's so lovely. He's got that compassion
Yeah,
already, and
he's very
he's tuning
caring.
into you. I
Yeah,
remember coming
very,
in from
quite
work
very
exhausted.
well. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember coming in from work exhausted and the girls getting a blanket and putting it over me. You
he does
know,
that all the time.
does he? It's just like I felt exceptionally guilty because I wasn't able to get up and play and be this kind of amazingly energized parent because I was exhausted. But um they at the end of the day you have days where you're exhausted and or you're ill and you're
Yeah.
kind of like sort of thank goodness for CBeebies. That's all I can say. But
But
I
you know what?
love that.
I had long COVID for a year and a half,
Gosh.
really bad long COVID, and part of my long COVID was shivers.
Mm,
Fevers, exhaustion, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia,
mm,
all this kind of stuff. And so sometimes I would pick him up from nursery and I would sit on the sofa and I would suddenly just start shivering and I would
mm,
have to lie down and he would bring me the blanket and then he would come and cuddle up with me. And yeah, it was very, very moving. And I think there's
mm,
something to be said for allowing our children to see us being vulnerable
mm, mm,
within reason,
mhm,
obviously, I think can be a very powerful example to set to them. Like, it's okay for you to be vulnerable. It's okay for, because we're always, whatever we're doing, we're sending
mhm,
a message that it's okay for them to do the same, right? So
mm,
we're telling them it's okay for you to be vulnerable. It's okay for you to receive help when you're older. It's okay for you to
mm.
receive help now. It's okay for you to ask for help now. And I think that's an important thing to pass on to our children because we're so much better and stronger together, and nobody needs to do it all alone
No, I totally agree.
at
Uh,
any age.
no, absolutely. It's been um It's been an interesting ride the last couple of years, our end, with the separation after a really long. I've had a 19-year marriage and came out of that, and navigating that with two teenagers has been a bit of a ride. And they're very conscious of everything. They're pretty much adults, and they can see. I remember one of my daughters saying, "When are you going to just split up?" Because she could see. Before I was making that decision, but it took me a long time and maybe too long, but I wanted to make sure I'd considered everything because I remember thinking, well, I may never meet anyone or experience this kind of commitment in a relationship again, and I have to be okay with that.
Mm,
And am I still okay with saying goodbye and to this part of this chapter of my life? And the word seasons is coming through as I'm talking to you. You know, when you have had seasons of illness, and as a single mum, if we really we could go down that rabbit hole of feeling guilty constantly,
mm,
and because we aren't able to be energized. I keep telling parents, you don't have to be a clown to be playful.
mm,
We are that environment around the child. We're there to help them to feel safe and connected to us and seen. And we
mm.
can do that from the sofa lying down just
Yeah,
as much as we can bouncing on the trampoline with them.
yeah,
And it's this thing. But going back to holding them through this time, and you know that you know you have a certain family unit, and if that unit's suddenly going to change, they're going to feel it, you know, subconsciously and consciously. And I've seen the journey that they've been on, you know, that grieving process, because it is a real grieving process, and they're so sensitive. um have you seen how separating from his father has had an effect, and how have you maintained connection during this time? I'd love to know, if that's all right.
mm. As in maintain connection with him.
Between you and your child, and helping him to feel safe through all
Yeah,
those transitions that you've probably been
yeah,
going through, because
yeah,
you're going through a journey, aren't you?
yeah,
It's a beautiful journey. I mean, not don't get me wrong, last two
yeah,
years I've been exploring who I am again and experiencing incredible amounts of beautiful pleasure and playing in different ways, and you know, but you're also grieving, and it's pretty shit sometimes, you know.
mm,
So how about
yeah.
how did you navigate that kind of separating process and
Yeah, so I mean, my son was still, he was 1,
mhm,
and his dad and I separated, so I think he didn't kind of yet understand. Um, so there wasn't, he didn't have that judgment in his head of like, this is how it should look and it doesn't look like this.
yeah,
He was just like, I miss Dada, right? And
mm,
so the whole way along, I've just sort of validated his feelings. You know, if he misses his dad, I'm like, I know. Like,
beautiful,
I know how much you love your dad, and your dad loves you too. And he's going to be so excited to see you at the weekend. Right. And so just sort of validating that. Um, he calls his dad a lot on FaceTime.
hmm,
For a long time, he called him on FaceTime every day, twice a day. Less so now, just because he's that bit older, so he doesn't need to as much. Um, and just, you know, just asking him every day. Every day, I would have a cuddle with him when once he's in his pajamas. You know, I'd have a cuddle with him, and before reading him a story, we'd do like a little recap of his day. And it's like, so, what was the best thing about your day? And his answer pretty much every single day would be everything. And then I'd say, you know, is there anything that troubled you today? Is there anything on your mind? And then he would share, you know, anything that troubled him or anything that was on his mind. And then I'd say, you know, is there anything else that you feel you want to talk about? And then just holding space for that and not making it
mm,
mean anything. You know, we just had parents' evening a couple of days ago on Tuesday at school, and there was this free writing exercise that he had to do where it was about, you know, things that are important to me. And on it, he had my cats because I look after them, which I thought was so sweet. My football because I can play with it with mummy in the garden. So, and then it
oh,
had mummy and daddy. And on it, he said, daddy's more important because I don't see him as often. And you know, for me, there was nothing there. There was no like, oh my gosh, you know, how can I be the less important one? It's like, oh no, I understand how that makes sense in his mind
hmm,
as a child, that his time with his dad is more scarce than his time with me. So that in some ways makes it more precious to him.
Mm.
And never ever taking that personally.
Yeah, knowing your worth, right? Because you've
Yeah,
done
it's
a
like
lot of
find out
work.
how much you
Because
love.
you exactly, and you, I mean, trust me, when they get to teenagers, I've had times where they've been like, "I'm moving out. I hate living here.
Yeah,
You're the worst. You're
yeah,
just like the worst. I hate you." I get all of that. It keeps you humble. Let's just say that. You know,
definitely,
no,
definitely. I think with
I
parenting,
just,
and I think it's the same thing with business. I think checking your ego at the door is just one of the most powerful things that you can do. The ego it serves a purpose, but in most real life interactions, the ego and the defensiveness that the ego can invoke
yeah,
and the self-centeredness that the
yeah.
ego can invoke is very much a distraction from deep connection, from
Mm.
true authentic relationships, and from meaningful productivity and evolution.
But validating emotions as well. Like
Yeah,
when you were just saying about you validated emotions, you
yeah,
miss your daddy. Having that strength to just, it's like kind of business mindset. You
yeah.
kind of have to sort of be like, okay, and I don't, you don't have to feel what they feel.
No,
That's
you
the thing.
don't.
You
No,
don't have to agree with what they're saying either, but
no.
it's validating. So you feel this,
Yeah.
and do you want to move out? Okay. I'm just going to go for a dog walk right now because I just need to get out, go and just think. I actually literally had to because it was just coming at me thick and fast, and I was like, I'm going to say something just not helpful right now, or they're going to see me go to pieces and go, oh, don't do it, and just take it too heavily on. Really, I knew there was something else going on in that moment, and they were really, really, really hurting, and they were stressing out about their exams, and they were
Yeah.
worrying about this, that, and the other. Something had gone wrong at school and things. So I was like, I need to be that safe point of call for them and
Yeah.
be able to hold these strong emotions, even if it's pointed at me directly and
Yeah.
personally. If you hadn't X, Y, Z, sometimes they pull the divorce card out, it's all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And they're still angry, they're still hurting. And I'm like, absolutely. That, yes, it's flipping painful. And it really, really sucks, you
Yeah.
know, but I'm still here and I'm going to be here, whether you like it or not. This is your home. And I'm just going to walk the dog and get some fresh air. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to continue to be your mother, and it's, but I had to ring my mum and I had to cry when I was on that walk and feel those feelings of
Yeah.
pain
Yeah.
because that's your lifeblood saying, pushing you away. But then I was also like, they are teenagers. They are supposed to want to separate from me.
Yeah.
This is part of the process. It's
Definitely.
okay.
Yeah.
I want them to fly away and thrive and be incredible humans and live their lives. I
Yeah.
don't want to be like hanging on to them, saying, please ring me all the time. And please, I need you. I need you. No. I mean, I had to learn that quickly with my younger one when she was acting abroad, didn't I? At a silly age.
Yeah.
But it's okay not to be needed sometimes as well, isn't it? And
Absolutely. Absolutely. As
pausing
you
to
said,
learn.
I mean, the parallels with business are very profound, and the parallels with client relationships, which is something that I've helped a lot of clients with and love talking about in my content.
Give me some
It's all the same thing.
examples. Yeah,
Mm.
give me a couple of examples.
Yeah. So
I'd love
so
to
as
hear that because I do work
so
with corporate.
yeah, so as you just said, you don't have to feel the way someone feels to hold space and validate what they're feeling, right?
Love it.
Perfect example. Same
Totally.
thing with parenting, same
Yeah.
thing with client relationships. Not taking things personally, right?
Yeah.
Not taking things personally, but still honoring your own feelings. So if someone does something that's hurtful to you, you don't have to take it personally, but it doesn't mean you push down the feeling and pretend it's not there. Letting it out in a safe space, whether it's on a walk or with a therapist or etc., is a really healthy thing. Same
Yeah.
thing with in a family environment, same thing in client relationships.
Yeah.
Couple of other examples, the ego piece,
Mm.
right? Not making things mean stuff about you, not taking things personally. That's all related to the ego and parking the ego. And I think also how you handle conflict and how you communicate when there's conflict,
Yeah.
and being okay with people leaving, obviously not if they're under a certain age. If my son said to me, right, I'm leaving, that would be a problem, right? But
Yeah.
um, I think sometimes it's easy to want to hold on to clients forever, and
Mm,
it's easy to want to hold on to your children forever. But neither of those things are necessarily a good idea for either party. And so just going, yeah, in this season right now, like this is
mm,
the season we're in right now, you need me quite a lot right now while
mm,
you're going through this phase and this season. In the
mm,
next season, you may not need me as much, or you may not need me at all.
mm.
That's okay. And that doesn't take away
Beautiful.
from the magic of what we're getting to create during this season,
Yeah.
and the validity of the connection and the validity of the co-creation.
Hmm. You can
And
be that
yes, I think
catalyst.
that's parallels. Hmm?
And you can be that catalyst for
Yeah,
change. And ultimately, as a therapist, my job was to make myself redundant, right?
yeah,
And even
yeah,
with the parenting work and the coaching and working with all these in crisis,
yeah,
you're giving them tools so that they can cope on their own, they can stand and they can mature. And this word growth, play, healing, the healing process is never fully. I don't believe you can see I'm fully whole and fully healed, because we are living in this imperfect world and we're navigating so many factors that are out of our control. So it's, how do I respond? And that pausing, okay, this is now in front of me. Hello, I've got a screaming child, or I have
yeah.
a.
Or a client having like a grown
Yeah.
adult client having literally having a toddler. Honestly, I truly think for
It's like the
business owners,
playground, mate. It's honestly in business. When I did start, it still feels like the playground sometimes, doesn't it?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the number of times that I've seen, either on very rare occasions with my own clients, or more often with my clients, grown adults having toddler tantrums.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Smacking
it's
walls and
actually
stuff
really
in the
useful
office.
in
Yeah.
that moment to go, in your own head, obviously, to go, oh, I see you're having a toddler tantrum. Okay, well, I'm going to speak to you like I would speak to my own child if they were having a toddler tantrum,
Hmm.
which is like, oh, I can see that you're feeling big feelings. Right? And then,
Yeah,
for example, uh, you know, uh, I'm gonna leave you to feel those big feelings for a little bit, and when you want to have a conversation, let me know.
yeah, yeah. And it's like,
Or
it's
like,
true, isn't it?
these are the two choices, right? Like, okay, you're feeling big feelings right now. You can choose this or you can choose this. What do you want to choose? Right?
And you don't have to take what they're saying as rote and as you don't have to take it personally.
Yeah.
You can just hold it and go compassionately,
Yeah.
they're really triggered right now, or they're really struggling, or this is actually too much right now. And how can I maintain connection here? Because we're going to still have to work together tomorrow.
Yeah. And I think the practice of practicing curiosity,
Yeah,
practicing like,
that's lovely.
hmm,
That's playing.
that's interesting.
I'm noticing that.
I'm noticing that exactly. I'm noticing this. Like,
Bit of therapy talk.
yeah, I'm noticing that this person is, whatever. And then just like letting it be, just
Mm,
being with it. Like,
mm,
that's fascinating.
love it.
Right? Versus, oh my gosh, how dare this person behave like this? Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Don't they know who I am? Right? Which
Mm,
doesn't accomplish anything, because then you're just bumping up against each other and making
mm,
it worse. There's
beautiful.
so many parallels, I think, between parenting and client relationships.
I totally agree. I think we've had a conversation about this before, because it's definitely resonating with me and I love it. And yeah, parenting, I think just to really encourage really busy working parents out there
Yeah.
that the things you are learning as a parent are not wasted at all, and you can apply them to your business and your working life. So really
Monetize
encouraging.
them.
Beautiful. I love it. So what do you wish that your parents had known when they were raising you?
Oh
You kind
God.
of think, just that's a big question. Look at your response. So you're basically doing the opposite, are you?
Yeah, I would say, oh goodness.
Try
Yeah,
to do the short answer. You have to do the
I just I think they were so in their own heads and in their own feelings
Mhm,
and in their own egos,
mm,
and their vision was like this, and I just wish that they'd sort of been able to zoom out a little bit and
yeah,
look at the bigger picture
mm, yeah,
and not make everything about them,
mm, yeah,
because I ended up being used as a pawn and just having stuff dumped on me that should never have been dumped on me, and being made to feel bad for like how the other parent was behaving when it was nothing to do with me, and just being dragged into a whole lot of stuff.
mm,
And I would never put my child through that.
yeah. Sounds like you had to do sort of adulting when you could have just been able to play and
Yeah,
grow on your own pace and
yeah, most
enjoy
definitely.
your childhood. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful though. It's a beautiful insight and a warning to us, isn't it? Just to make sure we step back, we pause to find perspective, and we let the child lead the way as much as possible. But,
Mm,
but we also, we create boundaries as well when we need to. And what about, I always ask people, I know you don't work directly in education,
yeah.
but your son's obviously going through the system at the moment.
And I
Is
do
any,
work with clients in the education space. I've
yes,
worked with lots of,
yes, actually, yes, you do.
yeah,
So
including you.
what would you want to change about schools at the moment, the education system? Is there anything that's really gets your goat or just really kind of triggers you a little bit when you hear what's going on?
Do you know what? I think Joshua's school has just, and Joshua goes to a state school,
Hmm, hmm,
which I was quite clear was what I wanted to do, because I went to private school pretty much for most of my primary and secondary education, and I think state school is just a better practice for real life. And I think the ability to be able to engage with a wide range of human beings is a very important life skill. Um, and I've just been absolutely blown away by his school. And I think the only thing I would change is like the sheer number of emails. Like, how do I get more emails from school than from my own clients?
Oh, I'm sure there's so many podcast listeners right now going, uh-huh, I hear you. That's
Like,
like the
yes,
conversation.
and we
Yeah,
have
especially
like
in primary schools, right?
a shared calendar, where everyone just
Oh,
like gets the link to the shared calendar, and then everything appears in our diary automatically, and we don't need a million emails. Like, there has to be an easier way, because I
that's so good. It's overwhelming, especially when you're juggling all your clients
yeah, it's
and
too,
you're trying to do this. And also it's just the types of thing that you get sent sometimes. It's just like,
yeah,
remember to bring 50p for the cake scale, and this person's, and don't forget the wellies today, and all these kinds of things. So yes, so
got
clearer
so much data.
communication, streamlined communication between school and
Yeah,
parent is
yeah,
your number one request, s'il vous plaît.
yeah,
That's a good one. Yeah, but again, if they pause, they look at their systems. I've seen this in businesses that creates, talking about well-being and in the workplace. Sometimes they just need to sort their systems out to reduce
yeah.
admin and streamline workflows
Yeah.
and make it possible for people to work flexibly, or
Mm.
create times to to block out, or yeah, that's another conversation, but hey.
Yeah, but I genuinely think a shared calendar would solve a lot, and I think I might even offer to set one up for.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Very proactive. Very, very cool. Respect to you. Good luck with that. Let me know how it goes. Anyway,
I
what
may
final
be
mess?
digging my own grave, but we'll see.
Yeah. What kind of final thoughts would you like to leave with listeners? I've really enjoyed our conversation. It's been very natural. We've just flown by and it's flowed. But if we think about pausing, playing, connecting, and building your business, I think this beautiful relationship between how we parent and how we do business, and just how we live our life, seems to be coming up again and again and again. Is there anything else that's, take your time, spend as long as you want on this, but is there anything else that's just coming through for you today that you'd like to share?
Hmm. Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I think one is just getting your validation from within and above, right? For me, that's God. I know for you, that's God too. For some people, they might have a different name, but they may relate to God a little bit differently. But getting that validation from within and above, rather than trying to get it from the human beings around us, I think that is the thing that gives us the ability to stay really grounded and rooted, whatever is happening, and even when other people are playing up. And if we're ever playing up, right, because nobody's perfect, that's what gives other people the ability to stay, calm and balanced and etc. um yeah, I think that just feels like a really important thing to remind everyone of.
Yeah.
um And I've been on an interesting journey with God. I think I went to a Catholic school, Catholic secondary school, where we had a chapel at school, and the what do you call it? The
Is it monks or what
priest,
they?
the
Um,
the priest. His name was Father something or other,
okay.
Father something or other, in
Hmm.
his sort of very elaborate gowns with his big scarf with gold on it and etc. And it was all hymns. And for a while after that, I identified as agnostic, and then I identified as atheist for a bit. And then I started practicing yoga, and I was like, oh, I feel more connected to God again. And then I sort of went down sort of the woo-woo spiritual route, and then it took me right back around full circle. And I started going to church again, and then I was baptized, and then that church actually stopped resonating with me profoundly. And I thought, you know what, I love God, but church, no, not for me.
Hmm.
And then I left church for nearly 3 years, and then started going to church again, this time a very, very different church, one that was, I think, a lot more embodied and a lot more aligned with, God's intentions for church and for the church community and the church family. Um, and it's been a very profound journey. And I just think the contribution that he can make to us and our journey as human beings, and how loved we feel and how steady we feel, is very profound. And it's not a substitute for therapy where therapy is needed, or where coaching is needed, or where, other kinds of interventions are needed. Not a substitute, but he is a wonderful complement to those things, in my opinion.
Hmm. Easy to integrate, someone who's very loving and knows us, inside out, right?
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And I think that sounds like a beautiful place to be in, working and parenting
Mm,
and loving, in our relationships. If we have that centeredness and groundedness and know our worth,
mm,
our confidence is there, and it's not dependent on what people say to us, and whether they like what we do or not. You
Yeah.
can just keep doing your thing and stay in your lane,
Yeah.
which is often the thing that derails us in business, right?
Absolutely. I mean, getting distracted by what everyone else is doing, or comparing, or taking anything overly personally, those are all recipes for, just as you said, becoming derailed. And if we know that he is always there, he is a constant, he loves us all of the time, even if a human being next to us is not loving us in that moment, or is triggered, or is playing up, or whatever, there's just a different level of peace that we can have, whatever is going on around us. And then what I've found as well is, paradoxically, is the more that we have that connection, and the more that we feel that centeredness in ourselves, the less likely anyone around us is to play up, or to behave badly, or to if something does happen, is very fleeting and it's quickly resolved,
Beautiful. Yeah.
versus kind of dragging on,
Mm.
or blowing up,
And
right?
you're free
Because
to fly.
it's like, I forget the metaphor, but it's like, I guess it's like, if you imagine that one person is fire, right, and the other person is water. Right, if one person is fire and one person is water, if the fire comes along, right, the water's going to put out the fire very quickly. But
Mm.
if both people are fire, then that fire's going to blaze and go out of control quite easily, because it's fire plus fire. So be the water,
Mm-hmm.
be the
Yeah.
living water.
Yeah. My new mantra, darling, is no drama, no messing, and no drama. It's
Yeah.
just, you don't want to look, you don't go looking for drama. I don't need spice in my life
No,
anymore.
no, no.
I don't
We
need to look at, and
learned that.
the best
Tick.
spice, the best spice happens when you feel safe and you
Absolutely.
feel loved and you feel seen and heard. And I think parenting and relationships, we should do another podcast on this. But again, the best sex, the best connection happens when you feel loved and safe with someone and seen, and that person is just like completely into you.
I agree.
And I just
There's a
can't.
lot of
It's
fake
just
spiciness out
beautiful.
there.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. Life can be as simple as you want it to be. It doesn't have to be as complicated as people try to make it out to be for them.
Definitely. No, I agree. I agree. And actually, one of the things that has completely transformed my life, that I learned about 2, maybe 3 years ago, when I had a series of dramas happen in very close succession. And I was like, what is the lesson here? What is the lesson here? I know there's a lesson here. What is the lesson? Was learning about the drama triangle, and then choosing very, very mindfully to neither, and I just wrote a post about this
Rescue.
morning,
Yeah.
using very, very mindfully to neither unconsciously create drama triangles, or unconsciously participate in other people's drama triangles. Absolutely life-changing. And as you said, sometimes when we're a bit younger, there can be that unconscious addiction to drama because it can feel exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And just really acknowledging that the best things in life are not dramatic. They don't drive us wild. They don't drive us crazy. The best things in life, they just are.
Mm-hmm. Just be.
They just
Just
are.
be.
And they're just calm, and they're just easy, and they just
They
work,
flow. Just there's
and
that
they just
flow.
flow. And there might be an occasional kink to be worked out, or an occasional
Mm-hmm.
minor conflict to be worked through, or an occasional misunderstanding to be navigated, or etc., etc. But they're so minor
Mm-hmm.
compared to the constant that
Mm-hmm.
most of the population on Earth are addicted to, and they don't even realize it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Addictions are not just things like alcohol or drugs or
Mm-hmm.
etc.
Yeah.
There's a lot of addiction to drama on this earth. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's also something that my parents had.
Mhm.
when I was young, and they couldn't see it. They couldn't see the wood for the trees. You've seen the wood for the trees there, in your picture. Um,
Yeah, roller coaster of life. People are so used to the ups, high. When it's good, it's really, really good. When it's
yeah,
bad, it's really, really bad. That was like my whole marriage, you know? And I don't want drama anymore, you know?
yeah,
And it's okay to feel calm and conscious and not be feeling like you need to hustle all the time. So,
yeah,
and that's how we can be countercultural. That's how we can parent differently. That's how we can do business differently. That's how we can educate people differently. And I think this is how we change the world, right?
I-
We don't do it by going bzzz all the time. So I just love that. I'd love to put that link
yeah,
about the drama triangle in
yeah,
the show notes,
yeah.
and I'll put your website in there. Everyone should definitely check it out. If you've loved the spirit that Jamie Sarah has brought today and you just want to connect with her, where can they find you?
JamieSarah.com.
Perfect.
JAIMIE. My mum was being arty, SARAH.com. Or you can find me on Instagram at definitely_definitely, or just Jamie Sarah everywhere else.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a
Thank
really precious conversation. Take
you.
care.
Thank you.